Welcome back. Now, Nigeria's stock market remains one of the best performing stock markets in the world, with a return of over 36% since the year began. Industrial heavyweights and banks have fueled the strong performance. However, with yields rising at the fixed income market, will investors switch sides for a better return on investment? Joining me for this conversation is Muktar Mohammed, CEO, Esther Investment. Muktar, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Esther, for having me.
Before going to our conversation, I just wanted to take a moment to briefly talk about that sad news that came through over the weekend of the passing of the Group Managing Director of Access Bank, one of the Tier 1 banks in the country. Just share your thoughts. I mean, what were your initial thoughts? And just, give us a sense of how the industry, how the banking sector, the markets are, processing this news.
Well, Esther, initial thoughts is this can't be true. Maybe I have to wait till Sunday to get the confirmation from Access to even believe the news, because this was a corporate giant himself, a man that you could trace his beginning. I mean, where he started from and everything, his goal, his vision. He was a visionary leader. He was a workaholic. He was a go-getter. He was a lot of positivity, and a man that was not only looking beyond the financial sector, also looking at the educational sector of Nigeria, not just looking at the educational sector to just serve the local, but looking at serving Africa and entirely the globally. Because I remember when they interviewed, they came out with a statement just last week, that your university is collecting dollars. And he said, no, the dollar is not for the Nigerian student. It's set for the foreign student. Nigerians should start earning effects from education. And he said that he will build an institution whereby foreigners will want to come in to study, and he will bring effects into the economy. That was the way this great man, Albert Wigwe, normally thinks. He thinks globally. You need to look at Access Bank from a bank of just like a bank with 5 branches today, with over the bank with the largest network of branches all over Nigeria. In Africa, the expansion has been geometric in every part of Africa, even in Wall City. That's why you know that even the president of France, or even was mourning the passing out of Albert Wigwe. It's very sad, but hopefully we know. They said a vision never died, even if the visionary has gone. And so that's the confidence we have. We could see more great companies when Disneyland was commissioned. The great with Disney was dead, but today Disney is still thriving, right. And I believe strongly that that's what will happen to all the businesses there, because there was a succession plan in everything Barry was doing.
You're absolutely right. And just thinking about where Access Bank was, back in the day before they made it to the Tier 1 list, the acquisitions and that share strategy prowess, if you will, of the late Wigwe and his partners, co-founders, and where they brought that bank to today. Obviously, so definitely quite an inspiring story, and we do hope that the good Lord will comfort the family. And of course, the staff of Access Bank. But it's not just Access Bank who lost someone. The NGX, the Nigerian Exchange Group, the former chairman, Ogunbanjo, was also. So there's also mourning at the NGX.
Yeah, it's also a big loss to also. Remember, he was the one that midwifed the demonetization of NGX into a PLC. He was the one that unboggled NGX into a profit-making organization at what they are now. It's also a big news. It's also a big loss to the NGS and to the investment community as a whole, because of what he's done, former chairman of the NGS Group. And again, knowing where he comes from, he is the son of the legendary Ogunbanjo. And people were expecting so much from him after he left NGS last year. But it's sad. We lost 2 very, very great corporate personalities.
May their gentle souls rest in peace. Let's move this conversation along. We're looking at the outlook for the banking stocks, not just banking stocks, the equities markets this week. We've seen the market rally strongly, over 36% now year to date, although we're seeing a bit of a pullback. And I can't help but notice the rising yields at the fixed income market. One-year paper, as you know, printing at 19%, all geared towards attracting more foreign portfolio inflows into the country. Talk to us. How would stock investors? How are they processing this? Looking just across the pond to the fixed income market and thinking about their portfolio, thinking about opportunities, if you were, for higher returns.
Well, Esther, it depends on where we were before now. And what I mean about that is most of the people that are going to play the fixed income space at the moment are those that were in the equities market. And that's why you're seeing what you're seeing now. Most of them are moving their funds to that space for safety. When you look at the returns, 19%, in commensurate with what they have made in the equity market, especially if you have bought at a very low price. Knowing that by this time last year, some of these stocks were penny stock. Access Bank was almost a penny stock. UBA was selling about 6 naira, 95 kobo. Access was selling for 7 naira, 10 kobo. GTCO was at around 18 naira. And Zenith also was at about that space. So you expect that some of them are taking their profits to the fixed income space. But again, like I said, depending on your strategy, some of them are still looking that there's still a lot of value in the equity market. Some of them are exiting to see what will happen. And that trigger that may tick the equity market is if the earning result begin to come in. If we've seen some of those unedited report third quarter or the unapproved, like I say, unapproved result, especially for the banks like FCMB and Fidelity, you can but expect that there could be a bumper return for investors in the equity market. So some of the investors here are still seeing those that are looking forward to having high dividend in terms of payment, and some of them, yeah.
Right. How worried are investors just looking at the broader macroeconomy? We know there is an ongoing cost of living crisis. We've been talking about food prices soaring, pockets shrinking even further because we're expecting inflation to pick up before we do see that eventual pullback later in the year. But for investors, when they look across the economy, the strength of the reforms, how the reforms are taking, if they're taking roots and making any impact whatsoever, does that make investors jittery?
Yes, Esther, definitely, because of we don't know whether these reforms are really taking root, because if you look at the World Bank report today, just trying to let us know that we are still paying subsidy in one area or the other. I am an advocate of payment of subsidy in the electricity sector. I think that touch every Nigerian. For me, that's a good subsidy. But again, when you look at removal of subsidy, they're still saying that that reforms have not fully picked up. What the market has really benefited from is the floating of the naira, and so you expect that to continue because the naira is still not enjoying that kind of stability. And when the stability comes, the market will still enjoy it because we get foreign investors coming in, and when foreign investors start coming in, the first place they want to look at is the financial market yield, getting good yields from financial instruments, and also playing the financial stocks in the equity market. So we're still positive on that space. Yeah, investors are worried definitely on the microeconomy issues. Like I always say, the stock market has a life of its own. It could move with that life, but it will need to be sustained by the economy. And that economy, as it stands now, there's a lot of drawback in the economic policy. And then if you look at the CBN seems to be helpless in trying to steady the exchange rate. Today, you're blaming the people that are schooling abroad, people that are going for medicals treatment, and then the following day you are coming up with policy telling Nigerians to stop patronizing foreign goods without giving them an alternative. And so today you are telling the banks you can do the buy and selling. It seems to be that every week CBN comes up with one circular or the other, and that shows that they are doing trial and error. So that is not giving investors confidence, especially foreign portfolio investors and foreign direct investors. They are not having that confidence yet.
Let's wrap this up. Let's talk about the stocks that are on your radar this week. We know banks and industrials have been favorites in the last couple of weeks, but we're seeing some profit taken there. And I suppose perhaps as investors who are holding a long-term view on the market who perhaps will continue to keep the market afloat. But for this week, what are the stocks are you eyeing?
I think for this week, I still think the industrials will still come up. The banking stock would see, maybe today we could see a little bit of drawback. I expect that drawback to come from a stock like Access Bank, at presently losing about 172 kobo. Maybe investors are waiting to get who's the successor, especially of the holding company. So that is why I think that losses is coming there. And like I said, yes. The banking stocks are still stocks I could still look up to the conglomerate. Then again, if you are looking to play any other sector again, then you need to begin to think of the volatility of the insurance sector. But again, the penny nature of those stocks make it interesting for investors. So I'll be looking at Mansard insurance in that sector, name insurance in that sector. So I think it's a stock that investors should look at. And I think also we should look at the oil and gas sector. Eternal Oil, there was a little bit of drawback last week, but I expect there will be a gradual recovery. The result was not fantastic, but knowing fully well that they are one of the pioneer marketers of Dangote refined petroleum product when it's finally hit the market anytime before the end of the first quarter. So we might just see that numbers change, and that's a stock to look at also.
Well, thank you so much, Muktar, for joining us and, of course, sharing your thoughts with us today. We appreciate your time on the show. That was Muktar Mohammed, CEO, All-Share Investment. Thank you so much. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back with our next conversation. Join us again.